All right, good afternoon to you, Missouri fans. Welcome to another Mizzou Football Saturday, number 5 on the season. We'll get to the big news of the day in a minute. The first piece of big news, hey, there's a football game. That hasn't been the case for the Florida Gators since October 10th. Today's October 31st, so that means it's been 21 days since Florida played, and not everybody's playing. We're going to get to that in just a minute. This is the Burger Smokehouse at-home tailgate. We are going to be here with you for about 90 minutes, leading up to a 6:30 Central Time kickoff. It's on the SEC alternate channel. Look, guys, if you haven't figured out how to find it by now, I don't know what to tell you. Hopefully you do in the next 90 minutes. It's get the Watch ESPN app, espn.com/watch. I'm going to watch it on Hulu, whatever. There's plenty of places you can watch it. Hopefully you guys all find it. Hopefully you follow along with us. So what we're going to do, like I said, we'll be here for about 90 minutes. And right about an hour, maybe a little more, I'll bring Mitchell Forty in to wrap up kind of the pregame show, get some of Mitch's thoughts. We'll set you guys up, lead you up to kickoff. We'll take a quick 15-minute break, grab some dinner, all that. We'll be back for On the Call, the game watch-along, as the Tigers and Gators go at it for 3 to 4 hours, somewhere in there. After that, we'll hop off, get on Eli Drinkwitz's Zoom call, and I will be back with you guys for postgame. We're anticipating that starts 10:15, something like that, tonight. But we will be here drinking some Boulevard, taking your calls, talking about the game for as long as you guys want to do so. We've already got some people in the comments, some names I already recognize, so I want to encourage you guys to do that over the next 90 minutes. Comment, ask questions, whatever you want to do. We want you to be a part of this. Obviously, me talking is fine, but it works much better when I have some things to talk about, when we can interact with you guys a little bit. That's why we're doing this whole thing, so appreciate Case being here. And appreciate all the rest of you guys who are already watching, have hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, all that. So once again, this is the Burger Smokehouse at-home tailgate. It is brought to you by Burger Smokehouse, the official smokehouse of PowerMizzou.com's pregame show and of Mizzou Athletics. They have dry-cured meats, brine-cured meats. They use a natural smoke process. You can get ham, bacon, turkey, pork, brisket, whatever you want, ribs. You can get that all over the state of Missouri. Dearborn, Schnucks, Price Chopper Woods, CNR, Hy-Vee, Gerbs, Walmart, and Hen House. They are a third and fourth generation owned by the Burger family in California, Missouri. And we have had some of that every week this year so far, and I can't recommend it highly enough. Okay, so like I said, there's news. First of all, the news is that Florida is playing football. That is a good thing. This game, I honestly at this point can't remember when this game was supposed to happen. Missouri's schedule has changed a lot, but originally this game was not supposed to be today. I believe it was supposed to be last Saturday. Today, then, I believe was supposed to be Kentucky, and next week was supposed to be off. Last week was Kentucky. This week is Florida. Next week, still Missouri's bye week. So certainly good that the Gators can play. However, there has been news today, and we're going to start with the report from our rival site, GatorsTerritory.com, from Zach Abolverdi, and we will talk to Zach later in the show, actually. I recorded an interview with him a couple of days ago, so that interview will not have all the information that he had, but Zach did break the news this morning. I'm just going to read you the long and short of it. Number 10, Florida will be shorthanded in the secondary against Missouri with a trio of starters sidelined. Cornerback Marco Wilson and safety Sean Davis and Donovan Steiner are all unavailable for the game. Gators Territory also confirmed that kicker Evan McPherson is out Saturday. Freshman Rashad Torrance II is set to make his first career start with Davis out. Junior Trey Dean III replaces Steiner at strong safety, and sophomore cornerback Jaden Hill, who started against Ole Miss in South Carolina, is expected to step in for Wilson. Redshirt junior Chris Howard will start for McPherson. So that is 3 defensive backs and a kicker out for Florida. Now, added to that, All Gators, the Sports Illustrated site that covers the University of Florida, added later on in the day In addition to Wilson, Steiner, and Davis in the secondary and kicker Evan McPherson, Florida will be without linebacker LeCedric Brunson and cornerbacks Chester Kimbrough and C.J. McWilliams. Those are for undisclosed reasons. We don't want to tell you for sure that it is COVID. Who knows? But obviously, a lot of things have been going on COVID-related at the University of Florida. So that is a total of 5 defensive backs, including 3 starters, the starting kicker, and a backup linebacker that we know are out for Florida. At some point, I think shortly before kickoff, Florida is going to release an updated list of who's not playing. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, we're not traveling this year. It is not worth the money. So Mitchell is not in the press box. We probably won't have that up-to-date information 10 minutes before kickoff other than whatever is tweeted. We certainly will follow that, all that. It'll be on the broadcast. But we know there are 7 guys out for Florida, according to these reports. Florida hasn't confirmed it. But I can tell you from being in a similar situation, we broke the news before the LSU game of the guys that Missouri was without. You don't write that story if you're not sure you're right. So I'm very confident those 7 players are going to be out for the University of Florida in this game. Now, so first reaction, hooray, that's great news for Missouri, right? Your all's first reaction. Look, they were starters, at least 4 of them. Certainly a big deal, especially if the game comes down to a kick. 2 kind of counterpoints to that. Florida's secondary has been awful all year. They're giving up 495 yards a game, I think, second worst in the SEC. Their secondary hadn't been very good. A couple of the guys stepping in have been starters anyway. Just 2 weeks ago, Missouri had 1 scholarship defensive tackle and was missing 3 of its top 5 wide receivers. The guys who stepped in played better. So there is some precedent. I mean, the 13.5-point line I think is high. I thought it was high before this. But I don't think this is necessarily, hey, all of a sudden Missouri's going to be favored in this game because of this news. Second, obviously, there's some history with backup quarterbacks, which should concern Missouri fans, just kind of as a, warning. But the one that always comes to my mind, and I can't remember the exact year, I want to say it was 2016, but no, because that was Barry Odom's first year. Might have been, I don't know what year it was, 2014 maybe. Anyway, Todd Gurley, it's reported on Friday night before Georgia plays in Columbia on Saturday. Todd Gurley didn't make the trip. Potential Heisman candidate, not going to play. Well, he didn't play. A whole bunch of us, including myself. The next morning, I picked Missouri to win that game. We didn't really know much about freshman Nick Chubb, who carried the ball something like 35 times for 224 yards in that game. Missouri turned the ball over 172 times. That number's unofficial. I'm going from memory. And Georgia won 34-0 in one of the ugliest Missouri football games I've ever seen. So my only point is, yes, this is potentially positive for Missouri's chances to win this football game. It is by no means a sure thing or anything like that. Florida has a lot of guys. Like, they are still, on paper, going to have more talent on the football field than Missouri does. We found out against LSU, hey, more talent on paper doesn't really mean anything sometimes. Maybe, Missouri might win this game anyway. I picked Missouri this morning to win this game. But the dynamic changes, but we said all week it's impossible to predict this game because we didn't know what Florida was putting out there. We don't know who's playing, right? So I want to get into your guys' comments here quickly, and starting with Stryker, who wanted a full list for Florida, so we gave that to you guys there. 5 defensive backs, a kicker, and a backup linebacker, and we kind of ran through the names. So that's what it appears to be like right now, Stryker. We know, or are pretty confident there are going to be 7 guys out. Now, look, there are some guys out for Missouri, too. We know Kobe Whiteside's not going to play in this game. We know Darius Robinson's not going to play in this game. There are going to be a couple more because Eli Drinkwitz said on Tuesday that Missouri has 64 scholarship players available. That is 2 fewer than it had for the Kentucky game. We don't know which 2 those are. Drinkwitz was very upfront. I watched Dan Mullen's press conference. He didn't give any injury information. I'm not giving any injury information. You guys can find out at kickoff who's out. I haven't heard any leaks. We don't have any news so far. So that's where we stand. I don't know if it's going to be impactful injuries, guys we won't even notice. I mean, we'll just have to kind of wait and see how that goes. Jacob, appreciate Jacob being in here. What are you dressing up for as Halloween? Jacob, I am dressing up as a YouTuber who's going to watch football. Like, truth be told, my youngest son's 18. He's going to go over to a friend's house. We're well past the trick-or-treating. We live on a street where not a lot of kids, it's a busy street, so not a lot of kids come here. Anyway, I'm going to be shut in my office, minus a couple 15-minute breaks. Wanted to grab some Shakespeare's, wanted to grab some Boulevard. So Halloween, not really a thing. Don't think I've dressed up for 20 years. There you go. Matt says I'm a cucumber. Went to my son's senior day swim meet earlier this year. His high school or earlier today, his high school colors are green and gold. So I just left the same shirt on. Look, it's got a collar. It's dressed up for me. So this is about the best I can do for you guys. Let's see. Okay, Bradley wants to know, does the news affect the game plan? I really don't think it does, because when we talked to Drinkwitz on Tuesday, we asked him, does who they have available or not knowing who they have available, is that going to change how you go about things? And he said, not really. You just have to assume that they're going to have everybody healthy. You go in with your plan, what you think you can do against them. Now, I'll give Drinkwitz credit. The last 2 weeks have shown me he appears to be a coach who he looks for weaknesses in the other team. Rather than just going in and saying, this is what we do and this is what we have to do to win, he goes in and says, what will this opponent, what can we maybe do against this specific opponent, which is the sign of a good coach. But I don't think he changes his game plan based on reports from Saturday morning. I mean, the game plan's in. Maybe this means, hey, he thinks we can have a little more success up over the top. Maybe they take a couple more deep shots than they would have, but I don't think there is significant difference. Patrick says LSU is getting throttled. Yeah, we've got some of the SEC scores running across the bottom. It's 28-3 Auburn right now. I didn't see that coming. I mean, Auburn could easily be 1-4. LSU looked like maybe they got a little healthy last week. Not so much. LSU, I had that game on my other screen. I flipped away and flipped to Northwestern Iowa because the LSU-Auburn game just simply wasn't competitive, and Northwestern and Iowa is close. Georgia beat Kentucky earlier this morning, 14-3. Look, Kentucky simply, at this point, your game plan against Kentucky, no matter who you are, is hand the ball off 140 times and just don't give them the ball and they can't beat you. They don't have an offense that can get it done. Steve, I'm not sure if this is a serious question, but wants to know the best way to watch the SEC alternate channel on Frontier Communications. I don't know, man. I don't have Frontier Communications. I really get the ESPN app and watch there. That's all I can really tell you guys. If you don't have the ability to do that, you're going to have to kind of find out, figure it out between now and then. Kohlberger says there are 8 DBs total out for LSU. For Florida. And there may be some more names that have surfaced here in the last couple hours. I was just going off the 2 stories I've read. There may very well be some more players. So I don't know if that means 8 DBs total available or 8 DBs total out. Cole, if you want to kind of clarify, we'll pop that comment up later. Well, so part of what we do in this pregame show is let you guys hear from the people involved. And so we usually start with a player. We're going to do that here and let you guys hear from Mizzou defensive tackle Markel Utsey, who, again, was the only scholarship defensive tackle who was available in that win over LSU and who made a huge play on a goal line stand there. And so we'll play this. It's a pretty quick interview with Markel, then come back with more of your questions and comments.
Hey, Markel. I know you all have all kind of had to shuffle a little bit on the defensive line with Kobe Whiteside and Darius Robinson being out. Is the position you're playing right now, what's the differences from where you had maybe started the season, if at all?
What I'm playing right now is zero tech, usually named nose guard. What I was playing was a 4. It's a little bit different. In a 4, you got a little bit more freedom. In the zero tech, you kind of got to take on more double team, sacrifice a little bit more. But other than that, it's kind of the same thing.
and you all have, had success stopping the run, obviously, each of the past 2 weeks. I'm curious, what do you feel like has kind of been, the biggest factor that went into that after the Tennessee week? Was it, technically driven or more of just like a mindset change or what?
I think it's just everybody doing their job, everybody on the defense being bought in, especially the front seven. Everybody being where they need to be at the right time and just buying in, not being selfish and just doing their job. I feel like that's what really helped us execute that.
Suichi Tirada, Kansas City Star. Go ahead, Suichi.
I have a first quick question. Markel, is it Markel or is it just Kel, or is it the same? We've seen it both on the roster.
You can just call me Kel.
Okay, all right. And second question, Drink has mentioned a couple times the scheme for the defensive line. You guys kind of have to take the double teams up front, but then it's kind of the linebacker's job to kind of, I guess, get the ball hand, or whoever has the ball, I guess. Can you kind of explain that from your perspective? Like, well, what's that kind of like, taking on those double teams and everything?
I feel like our defense, we got a gap scheme defense, and everybody got a job. Everybody do their job. And, where I play, I take up a lot of double teams so that I can help the linebackers make plays.
Colin O'Brien from Jeff City. Go ahead, Colin.
Hey, Cal, just what was it like for you guys playing LSU and Kentucky without Kobe and Darius, and how proud are you of the guys that were called upon to step up and did step up?
It was different for sure. A lot of guys had to step up, like you said. A lot of us had to switch positions and play tons of amount of snaps. But I feel like it's just a job that we have in the D-line room, and somebody had to do it, so we just had to step up and make it happen.
Max Baker from the Missouri. Go ahead, Max.
Yeah, what have you seen on the offensive line as far as the younger guys that have stepped up, like Xavier and Dylan? What have you seen from them that's allowed them to have success?
I feel like they have stayed ready, with COVID and everything going on. We got injuries and, whatever could happen. Right now, I feel like they've been prepared well and they stayed ready. And when the name's called, I feel like they performed at a high level.
Anybody else got anything?
All right, so that is defensive tackle Markel Utsey. And the last question there is kind of a good place to transition about the offensive line. So he was asked about some of the young guys. Well, I've got people here in the comments, and I just looked on our message board. Basically, somebody is seeing the Mizzou football Instagram account, and they're showing jerseys, and Larry Borums is not there with the other offensive linemen. So people are speculating that Larry Borum is one of the players who is not going to play. Now, he was injured last week in the win over Kentucky, I believe in the first half. So that it certainly wouldn't be a shock if Larry Borum is one of the guys that isn't playing. I'm not reporting that for sure. I don't know that. I do have a text out checking whether that will be answered or not before kickoff. I'm not super optimistic, to be honest, but it is possible Missouri is without Larry Borum. So, what does that mean? Well, last week, Dylan Spencer came in the game, true freshman, and the best thing, okay, so have confirmed Larry Borum did not make the trip to Gainesville with Missouri. So there you go, little piece of breaking news for you guys. Larry Borum not playing for Mizzou. And there you go. He will be out. Missouri's right tackle, one of the best offensive linemen in college football so far this year. Believe he has not allowed a pressure. At least he hadn't going into the Kentucky game. And he didn't play all that game. Now, Dylan Spencer is going to, I assume, play in his place like he did last week. What I can tell you about Dylan Spencer is I didn't really notice him. And that's a good thing. So, the best thing I could say about the way Dylan Spencer played is that I didn't notice he played. And that's a good thing for an offensive lineman. Hang on one second. I am updating the message board. Okay, so Larry Borum out for this game. Dylan Spencer likely in. But hey, again, Florida's without all kinds of guys. It happens, and it's football. So we'll see how that goes. Let's get back to some of your questions and comments before we play a couple more interviews for you guys. Jacob wants to know if Missouri's going to be able to slow down Trask and Pitts. Pitts feels like a better version of LSU's Eric Gilbert, who tore us up. He's an older version. I don't know if he's better. Eric Gilbert might be the best tight end in the country, even as a freshman. But slow down. I mean, Martez Manuel going to have his hands full. The Missouri back seven going to have its hands full. Played well last week against Kentucky. A lot of people going to look good against Kentucky on defense. Missouri's given up at least 35 in every other game, so this is a little bit of this will be an interesting week for Missouri. Slow them down maybe a little bit, but Missouri's not winning this game 20-10. I think Missouri's going to have to put up 30 to win this game. Now, Florida may have to put up 30 to win this game too. But I don't think Missouri wins this game down in the 20s. Okay, more updates from Gainesville. Larry Borum, Daniel Parker did not travel. Darius Robinson did. Jatorian Hansford did. So, again, give me just a second. I'm trying to do 2 or 3 things here at once. Trying to update the message board here real quick. Okay, so Daniel Parker and Larry Borum did not make the trip. However, Jatorian Hansford and Darius Robinson did travel to Gainesville. So Missouri loses a couple, may get a couple back. Not sure if Hansford and Robinson will play, but they are there. So that's at least interesting. I don't believe either has played. Early in the year, Eli Drinkwitz told us Hansford was out for the season. Look, again, this is a little hectic. We're getting messages. We're updating the message board. Let me update real quick where we're at. Florida has at least 5 defensive backs out, starting kicker out, reserve linebacker out. Missouri is without Larry Borum, is without Daniel Parker Jr., may be regaining Darius Robinson and Jatorian Hansford. So that's the roster information we have for right now. So a little bit of breaking news for those of you watching. Appreciate all you guys that are here. Again, every week this is getting a little more traction. And, hey, Missouri winning doesn't hurt that, certainly. So we appreciate you guys being here and being a part of this. Do me a favor, hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Real quick, we're going to jump to another interview. I want you guys to hear from defensive coordinator Ryan Walters here in a minute. And then we'll also talk to Zach Abolverdi, who covers Florida, before we bring in Mitchell Forty. But do want to thank, again, Burger Smokehouse. They sponsor this show every week, family-owned and managed by the Burger family in California, Missouri. What makes burgers unique? Well, they have dry cured, country cured meats, ham, bacon, barbecue. They have brine cured meats, both hickory smoked ham and turkey. They use a natural smoke process. Only real wood chips, no liquid smoke. You can tell it in the taste. Folks, you can buy this stuff at your grocery store, stick it in the microwave for 4 minutes, and you got dinner. It's good stuff. I would certainly recommend it for a game day meal for any of you guys. So I hear a bunch of comments coming in. We're definitely going to get to those. Got about a 10, 12-minute conversation here with Ryan Walters on how Missouri can stop this Florida offense, which has been putting up points all season long. But now Missouri will be seeing on the field for the first time in 3 weeks.
Hi, Ryan. I guess what kind of challenge does the combination of Kyle Pitts and Kyle Trask pose to your team?
It ain't just those two. I mean, they've got a squad over there. Obviously, they're athletic and long, and Coach Mullen and his offensive staff do a good job of putting you in predicaments to sort of pick your poison on who you're trying to stop based on what kind of set you're seeing. So, obviously, the Trask is a very smart quarterback, gets the ball out on time. He does a good job, too, of throwing guys open, especially in man coverage. You'll see on tape where it looks like guys covered, especially like a Kyle Pitts, where he'll hit, back shoulder fades all the time. And those guys do a good job of locating the football and really catching the ball with their hands. That's been impressive on tape. And then they got, a couple running backs who get downhill quick.
play tough and physical. The quarterback's got a good command of the offense, and they do a good job of having ball security with still been spreading the ball around a lot, and that's hard to do sometimes when you're going up tempo, having spread offense, and like I said, stretching the ball down the field and having a lot of gap schemes and run game.
Yeah, Ryan, how much does your week change, if at all, when you go week to week, knowing there's going to be some guys out, but you're not sure which ones? I mean, do you guys just concentrate on scheme and not worry about the particular players, or do you kind of go into Saturday not sure what you're going to see, and does that change the week?
Yeah, I mean, you got to operate like everybody is available. So it doesn't mess with your scheme too much, and that's on both sides, like our current roster and whoever you're playing, and then you just adjust as you gain and gather information. There are certain things that you tweak week to week because of certain matchups. And if those matchups change, then that might change what you're doing schematically or what you were trying to do or aiming to do going into the week. And so you just got to do a good job of adjusting. And 2020 has been a year of adjustments for sure. So I think our guys have handled it well. Just with that, with adapting to the environment, adapting to whatever the current status quo is. And we just got to continue to do so.
Hey, Ryan, when you looked up at that scoreboard on Saturday and saw the 10 points your defense gave up, was that kind of more, maybe indicative of what you expected, this season compared to the first 3 games?
Well, I mean, the first 3 games, we played some pretty quality opponents. But obviously you always want to play better. But I knew that we were prepared going into Saturday, just the way we executed throughout the week. And I had an idea of what they were trying to do. I think everybody at the game knew they wanted to run the ball. And I think early, they threw the ball the first 3 plays to try to see if they could stretch us with the structure we were giving them. And then when we answered the bell early, I got excited about what I thought the outcome of the big game would be, just because I knew the way our guys executed and how hard they worked throughout the week. And I think we'll only get better as the year goes on. As some of our younger players gain experience, and guys just get used to the speed and physicality of playing an SEC schedule. You got week 1 you got Alabama right out the gates. That's that's tough. And but our guys haven't really wavered in terms of what their confidence is in each other and the potential that they believe that they can realize as a unit. So we just have to keep working. Like I said, you're playing an all-SEC schedule, and there's a lot of good teams in this league and a lot of great players in this league. So you're not gonna win every one-on-one battle. But when you don't win one, you just can't affect the next play. And we just got to do a good job of adjusting and bouncing back and continue to work, put your head down to work. That's all we know how to do.
Ryan, go ahead.
Hey, Coach Walters. I know a lot of what goes into turnovers can be based on luck and just kind of being in the right place at the right time, and it's not necessarily something you can control. But with the way you guys have played on third downs in the last 2 games, do you feel the same way about that, or do you think the third down success for your defense is more sustainable, maybe something that's based on personnel and scheme and execution?
Well, the turnover deal, we preach it, we work on it every day. And those sort of come in waves. Obviously if you're not getting turnovers, you better be good on third downs and you better be forcing a lot of them. And so the LSU game, I was disappointed that we didn't, get a chance to get a couple turnovers. I thought we had chances at the Tennessee game and we just didn't come up with them. So we just keep working at it. I am pleased with the way we're executing on third downs. And the way we're tackling and the effort and with which we're playing. And so, I think they'll start coming, and, just can't, it's like one of the things that you over preach, overemphasize, you start pressing and they don't come. I think it's, when you just focus on the play and focus on the right techniques and the right leverages and things like that, and mixing in different calls to give the quarterback different looks, and focusing on the football when you're going to tackle the ball carrier, I think they'll start coming. I thought, Bledsoe did a good job of that last play. After the receiver caught it, he really focused on where the ball was and trying to get it out, and it came out. So hopefully that instills confidence in him and everybody around him, to continue to focus on the football.
Ryan, I know you're not going to give away the exact strategy, but earlier this season, Martez said a lot of times his position is the one that ends up covering tight ends. When you've got a guy like Kyle Pitts, do you stick one guy on him a lot of the time, or do you need to kind of help out more so?
Yeah, we've got a plan. That Kyle Pitts he's an NFL guy, and so we'd be foolish not to pay attention to him. We had some tweaks last year as well, and so we've got to do some things this season that are a little bit different than what we did a year ago to help us out. And so we'll be ready. We'll know where he's at every snap. Him and number one, we got to know where they're at.
Ryan, I think most weeks you probably have guys playing 50 to 60 snaps. Last week you had 3 guys play more than 25 snaps. Does that give you any advantage going forward? Guys being maybe a little fresher than they would have been in a game that was more normal than last week was?
Yeah, I mean, I asked specifically, Bledsoe and Tyree have been sort of our workhorses. And usually on Wednesday, they look like old men at practice, and so in the meeting room today, I'm like, "How you guys feeling?" They're like, "Man, I feel great." And I'm like, "Yeah, y'all only played about a quarter with the 36 snaps, and so hats off to our offense and Coach Drink, holding the ball, especially that third quarter, man. That was impressive. And so I think it definitely, we feel fresher. We needed it. We played 4 really physical football games, and so I'm glad that they got a chance to sort of sit and watch on the sidelines for a while on Saturday, and get back rested, and hopefully we'll be fresh come Saturday night.
Hey, Coach, obviously there's such a big difference between Kentucky and LSU, but obviously a lot less points. Can you kind of talk, maybe is it a little bit about the teams you're facing, or, what kind of growth did you see from your defense? It obviously helps when the offense has the ball most of the game, but can you just speak a little bit on the growth you saw from one week to the next in that defense and the execution?
Yeah, the 2 different styles of games, on both sides, I think offensively and defensively, I think we're playing complementary team football. I think in the LSU game, they had, I think their points came from explosive plays but we were still able to get off the field. I think we were 10 for 10 on third down stops. And our offense was scoring, you know what I mean? And so, and then when we needed to get a stop at the end, we got a stop. And then this past week, it was a old school, control the clock, ground game. And so when you're and for 45 yards or whatever it was, you're not going to score a lot of points. That's just the nature of it. But when you're putting the ball in the air 40 plus times, usually, eventually you're going to get one. So I think it's a combination of us executing at a higher level, but also the different styles of offenses we're seeing and the different game plans that we have on both sides of the ball, going in to try to do what it takes to win a ball game.
Yeah, Ryan, I know this isn't necessarily about your side of the ball, but just when you're going up against the offense in practice every day, what are kind of the things that you see Jalen Knox do that just make him such an effective playmaker?
Just his speed, man. He's real fast, and I think our offense does a good job of finding ways to get him the ball. Whether it's a speed sweep or a screen or whatever. You know what I mean? but his speed is his strong suit for sure.
Thanks.
All right, so that is Mizzou defensive coordinator Ryan Walters, and his side of the ball really is the one that I think is going to be in the spotlight, going to be the center of attention because Florida does have an offense, and most of their losses appear to be on defense. Again, want to catch you back up. Missouri going to be without Daniel Parker Jr. and Larry Borum on the offensive side of the football. Now, you guys corrected me. I was confused. Last week, it was Dylan Spencer came in for Xavier Delgado at guard. It was not it was not Larry Borum that he replaced. So appreciate you guys pointing that out. So what's going to happen is Javon Foster is going to play right tackle for Larry Borum. If, by all indications, I mean, Delgado was not included on the list we got as a guy who is not there. So we assume Delgado has made the trip. Now, whether he can play or not may be a different deal. We still may see Dylan Spencer out there, but it's Javon Foster replacing Larry Borum, not Dylan Spencer. And Larry Borum, again, hadn't allowed a pressure all season, was Missouri's highest graded lineman by PFF College pretty much, I think, every week this year almost. Had played really well on that right side. So certainly an impact for Missouri. And then you add in Daniel Parker Jr. not being there, who basically is another offensive lineman, if we're being honest about things. Nico Hay has been the much bigger receiving threat at tight end. He is certainly taking snaps from Parker. They've split snaps about 50-50 the last couple games. I know when I've looked at the snap counts, it seems like Hay is getting a little bit more and Parker getting a little bit less as we go forward, especially on passing downs. But Hay is not going to take every snap. So I think that means you're probably going to see a little bit of Logan Christopherson this week. I'd throw Messiah Swinson in there, but we really haven't seen much of him at all. So I'm not sure if that's the thing that's going to happen. But so it's Javon Foster on the offensive line and probably Nico Hay mostly at tight end that are the difference. And I put this up earlier during the interview, but I just want to put it back up. Clearly, Dan Mullen is on our stream. No question about it. That's what he's doing. Just a couple hours before kickoff in Gainesville. There you go. See, right there. Also, it's odd that Dan Mullen would use the name Mark number 4276, but I appreciate you having you here, Dan. I always want to quote Christmas Vacation when Randy Quaid is emptying the facilities from the RV. I can't say it on here, I don't think, because I don't think I'm allowed to say bad words because then it violates some sort of YouTube policy and they might ding me and, all that. So we don't want to do that. But anyway, point of the matter is that he looks like Randy Quaid. And I just wanted to get that in there. So, again, appreciate all you guys that are being here, comments and questions and all that. So, real quick before we talk to Zach Abolverdi with Gators territory, and then we'll get to Mitchell 40 as we kind of roll toward kickoff here. Case wants to know if I'm ever sad when I don't get to watch some big games like Penn State, Ohio State. And honestly, that was one reason that I wasn't all that upset the Vanderbilt game was canceled, because I got to watch Georgia and Florida. Georgia and Alabama. But you know what? It's interesting, guys. You all see more college football than anybody who does what I do sees. Because, and it's not a complaint, it's just a fact of the matter. Usually if you're covering a game, and this year's a little bit different, but the time frame isn't that different. If you're covering a game in person, you're going to get there an hour and a half before kickoff, 2 hours before kickoff, get everything set up, to watch warm-ups, all that. So then you're going to be at the game for 3.5 hours. And then you're going to have probably 3 to 4 hours of work afterwards. So if you're covering an 11 a.m. game, you're working 9 to 6, 9 to 7, maybe something like that. You'll come home and see a primetime game. If you're working a 2:30 game, you'll see the first half of the morning games, and then maybe that West Coast Pac-12 after dark game. If you're working a 6 o'clock game, you'll see the morning games. Then I'll usually watch the 2:30 game till halftime, and then I'll go over and you don't see anything. And the press box is, they're not playing other games on TV. They're only playing the game you're watching on TV. So the point of it is we mostly see two teams, which is why I always laugh when people put so much stock and get bent out of shape about the AP poll. You guys watch more football than we do. I'm not qualified to tell you the 25 best teams in the country are. 19 of them I haven't seen play all year. So, it's why it's good the AP poll doesn't really impact the playoff and things like that anymore, because the truth is none of us know, man. The people that vote on that go, yeah, I don't know. They were number 6 last week and they won, and number 5 lost, so I'm going to move that team up. That's pretty much how it's done. So sorry to disappoint. Yeah, and Stryker points out 48-3 Auburn. I mean, guys, I know that LSU had some turnovers in the first half of the game. Like I said, I haven't been watching the second half. I'm watching Texas-Oklahoma State right now. Texas trying to take the lead in the third quarter. I'm not going to watch a game that's 48-3, so I don't really know how it's happening. But my goodness, man, Bo Pelini is going to be in trouble. And like Ed Orgeron, he's got a leash of a year or two. But at some point, you're going to be in trouble, I would think, if that thing doesn't turn around. 48-3 is ridiculous. Ole Miss is also whipping Vanderbilt. Georgia already beat Kentucky. Mississippi State, Alabama will start shortly before Missouri starts tonight, just shortly before we go off the air, actually. And then Arkansas and number 8 Texas A&M will start right about the same time as Missouri and Florida. So once again, want to remind you, Florida missing 5 defensive backs, missing a linebacker, missing a kicker. Now, we did not know that earlier this week. I believe it was Thursday morning when I talked to Zach Abolverdi, who covers Florida for our Florida site, GatorsTerritory.com. So, obviously, look, these guys I have to record these interviews a little bit in advance because these guys are working all day Saturday. They're not going to be able to join me live 45 minutes before kickoff. So, out of respect for them and for them helping us out, obviously, the opposing media, we record that interview earlier in the week. We recorded this on Thursday, so that piece of information obviously was not available when I talked to Zach. But still, want to give you some insight on Missouri's opponent from Zach Abolverdi now. We'll come back after that, hit up Mitchell 40, and lead you up to kickoff of Mizzou and Florida. All right, Zach Abolverdi joining us now from Gainesville, where I don't know, Zach. I think by the time this airs in an hour or so, we're going to have football. And it's been a while for you guys down there.
Yeah, it has been. It'll be the first game for the Florida Gators in 3 weeks. On Monday, it was the team's first time practicing in 2 weeks. So not really used to this type of break during the season. Obviously, you get a bye that every team is kind of used to. But even when you get a bye, your team still practices 3 times during the week. So that hasn't happened for the Gators, and this week has kind of been a build-up for them because they needed to build up to today. They needed to build up to game day because on Monday, so many guys that were coming off of COVID, which was the outbreak that caused all this to get pushed back, guys had to go through a 4-day reacclimation period. So, could only practice 25% of their normal routine the first day, 50, 75%. It wasn't until Thursday that they could hold a full practice with all their guys. So even though football's back, there's still some rust, I think, that'll have to get knocked off today.
How much do you think that, and I know the ultimate answer is, I don't know, we'll find out at 7:30 Saturday night, but I mean, how big an issue is that for Dan Mullen and his team? Missouri fans want to think, well, they haven't practiced in a while. This is good. But the only other time we've seen this, the Tennessee Titans came back and ran all over Buffalo. So maybe it's good to have 2 weeks off. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of things that I think for this team they needed to kind of take a step back and reassess, especially obviously on the defensive side of the ball where they really had a tough performance in their last outing against Texas A&M. And, going into that week after that game, Dan Mullen had said there was going to potentially be some personnel changes on defense. He spent that Sunday some extra time in the defensive staff meeting that he kind of revealed to us, just trying to figure out if guys were getting lined up in the right spots. They had some new pieces this year on the defensive side of the ball. So I think guys, maybe some playing some new positions, maybe had to reassess that, maybe if they need to go back to their old spots or just what they can do from a lineup change standpoint to get some better results out there. The issue was, even though you can kind of sit back now and get that extra time to reassess that, they couldn't carry that over to the practice field and actually have those guys, work that out. So I don't know how much changes we will see. I do think that there's going to be some guys that will be out in today's game. Dan Mullen hasn't, revealed any of those names yet, but I do think that Florida is going to have some things that they have to figure out once they get back out there on the field.
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask. Obviously, nobody knows names. Every coach handles this situation differently. But do you have any sense for whether, hey, this could be a bunch of guys we recognize, or yeah, there's some guys out for Florida, but the casual fan may not even notice who they are?
I think that there'll be a handful of guys that don't play Saturday, and probably at least one or two that are significant enough of a starter that folks will notice their name and them not being in the lineup. But this is something that I think the team has already had to deal with a few times this season. They've had some guys in the first 3 games that weren't able to play due to COVID, but it was just, again, a few guys. So this is something that they've already had to adjust to. You would have liked to maybe be at full strength coming back off of that much of a time off, but there's going to be some adjustments, I think, and maybe who knows, especially on the defensive side, Gabe. I mean, there might be some guys that aren't out there in today's game that you might think Florida made some lineup changes, but maybe they're just out because of the COVID protocols. We don't know that, so we'll find out.
And you never know how that affects the team. I mean, 3 weeks ago, Missouri played LSU. They were missing 2 of their starting 3 receivers. They had 1 scholarship defensive tackle. And I mean, everybody thought going into that game, well, they got no chance. And the replacements actually played better. And I mean, I'm not sure there's a better example of that than Florida. So 2 years ago, I'm not sure it was his first action, but it was early. We were down there for Felipe Franks played about 3/4 of the worst quarterback I've ever seen against Missouri in that 2018 game. And Trask came in and played the 4th quarter. Didn't look great, but that was the first glimpse people had of Kyle Trask. And I think a lot of people outside of Gainesville thought, when he takes over, this team might get better. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, were people in Florida wanting it to happen sooner than it actually did, which I think was kind of early in the 2019 season?
No, I wrote all about a story about that this week on Gators territory about how this is kind of like the 2-year anniversary for Kyle in that game because, as you said, that was his first time showing anybody what he could do. He played in Mappa. He played twice that season. That was his first season getting any action. He'd been there for 2 years, so that was his 3rd year on campus, but just kind of had mop-up duty against CSU, played the final series against Tennessee. That was it. So when he got on there 5 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter, that was the first time he'd had significant snaps in an SEC game with the game still on the line, even though Missouri had a 25-point lead at the time. He actually did look good. I mean, the first drive, he led them on a 75-yard touchdown drive, and it was like, whoa. Then they didn't score again the rest of the game. He didn't score in the 4th quarter, but he had some moments. He had the end zone throw. If you remember, he literally out of his end zone, he threw like a 50-yard pass to Kadarius Toney. They ended up not scoring on that drive, but he had his moments where you go, are we going to get a quarterback change potentially? And I don't know if you remember, but it was a whole thing that next week, Gabe. And then I don't remember what day of the week it was. It might have been Wednesday. Trask broke his foot. That was it. He was done for the season, and whatever quarterback competition was taking place, it was over because that injury made the decision for Dan Mullen, and he continued to play Felipe Franks. He led them to the comeback victory against South Carolina that next week and kind of took the stranglehold on the job from that point on until he got injured against Kentucky. So, but as Kyle told me this week, he said that game against Missouri was a huge moment for me because I'd never played, I'd never had any snaps, and I think it kind of showed his teammates probably that if I get my chance, I'm going to be able to actually produce.
And now I think the consensus would be that Trask is the 2nd best quarterback in the SEC, probably. I mean, with what Mac Jones is doing, I think the nod probably goes there at this point.
For sure.
That's what Florida had in mind when they brought Dan Mullen in, right? They had gone through years and years of elite defenses that couldn't win games because they couldn't score a point. And now, now you go down to Florida, you got to get into the mid-30s to beat this team.
Yeah, and that was something I think, you always knew going into it that Florida was going to have good quarterback play with Dan Mullen as a coach. Their offense was going to be improved. But since we're sticking on Kyle Trask, I mean, and I've said this before, but this might be potentially his most impressive quarterback coaching job that he's had in his career. I'm not sure, where Alex Smith kind of was as a recruit. I don't know, maybe he might have been in the same ballpark as Kyle Trask, but obviously, like Tim Tebow and some of the other guys that he's had throughout his career were pretty highly touted coming out of high school. And what he and Brian Johnson, the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach, have been able to do with Kyle Trask has really been remarkable. To even have him be in the conversation of one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC when this was a guy that nobody even thought would even get a shot under center, it speaks to the development of Dan Mullen and also the offense that he sets his quarterback up for. I mean, I think Trask is talented. Clearly, he's shown that he's got the ability and he's capable. I don't know necessarily if he went somewhere else, if he'd have the same level of success that he's having under Dan Mullen and Brian Johnson. You could obviously say the same for Felipe Franks. Obviously what they have to do is kind of get their defense up to par, because so far this season that has not been kind of to the standard that they've played to. They were a top 10 defense last season, and they've given up 100 points through their first 3 games.
Right. Obviously Trask is the trigger man, and everybody knows about the tight ends. If you've got to identify, hey, what makes this offense go? Is it Kyle Pitts in that tight end position, or is there something else that you think everything kind of runs off of?
I mean, I do think Kyle Pitts affects the game in so many ways that he's definitely a focal point of the offense. Obviously, Kyle Trask makes it run and makes the whole thing go, and his ability to just operationally know where to go with the football, make the reads, all the checks and things that he has to do to get everybody lined up. I mean, he's basically operating, as Dan Mullen said, at a graduate level out there, because he is a 5th-year senior. So a lot of it, the credit goes to him, certainly. I think just having a veteran quarterback that knows the system, knows where to go with the football, can make those reads, and then has a tight end who, if he's not his go-to target on that play, can at times serve as a decoy, potentially open things up in the run game because of the kind of the coverages that he demands. So really, I mean, I guess it goes without saying, but that Kyle to Kyle connection really is kind of what makes that offense go, from his ability to just kind of be a signal caller back there and manage the offense. And then Kyle's ability, Pitts, to affect the game, not only as a pass catcher, but in the run game as well.
So defensively, look, we know Florida's given up a ton of points. Has it been any specific problem, or have they just kind of struggled with everything defensively?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of across the board. I mean, I think you can point to, at least for the first few weeks of the season, the layoff from COVID and not tackling during the offseason, not having spring, that hurt Florida like it hurt a lot of teams. But I think also, and perhaps more importantly, you're without, I think it was 7 starters, defensively, with Kyrie Campbell out of the lineup. Now he's set to make his season debut in today's game, but 2-year starting defensive tackle did not play in the first 3 games. So you add him, I think that was 7 defenders in the starting lineup that were not there from last season. So you go with those new pieces, and it's not just that you have guys kind of stepping in to replace those the guys in those roles, but you had some guys that were actually, we talked about earlier, changing positions, and they didn't get the spring and a traditional training camp to kind of work in at their new spots and get used to whatever their assignments are and what have you. So I think that you watch Florida's defense the first 3 games, and there are definitely times when guys kind of look confused out there, or just simply look like they're thinking and not playing. And I think, some of that speaks to the newness of the guys in the starting lineup, and also some of those guys playing new positions. You would think that over time, with more repetitions, with more games, they would be able to kind of get better at that, which is why that 2-week layoff was so detrimental for them.
We'll wrap you up with a couple. I've been interested seeing kind of the back and forth with, not back and forth really, but the comments from each coach. Dan Mullen apparently voted Missouri in the top 25 this week, which, I guess there's not that many teams playing, but they are 2-2. Eli Drinkwitz is just out here nominating Dan Mullen for NFL coaching jobs. He's done it twice this week. But what is the view from Florida of Drinkwitz? And I mean, we're only 4 weeks in. I'm not sure anybody really knows what to think about him. There's not a long history to go off of, but what have the Florida defensive coaches and Mullen said about kind of what they've seen out of Drinkwitz and his scheme so far?
I sense a level of respect. I definitely think that they're impressed by what he's done at Mizzou, just kind of given the program that he had to take over. Obviously, we know that they've always had the firepower offensively to be a really good team on that side of the ball. we've seen it ever since Mizzou's been in the SEC, obviously dating back to Drew Lock. But what I think's been most impressive that Dan Mullen and Todd Grantham have highlighted this week is that they've won games in multiple ways. That they've shown that they can be in a shootout against LSU in a game that's in the 40s and pull it out, but that they can also play the ball control, physical, we're going to run it down your throat and keep the other offense off the field and just dominate that way like they did against Kentucky. And so I think for a team to be able to do that early in the season, especially given everything that that led up from the offseason, I think it speaks a lot to this coaching staff and kind of their ability to kind of take what they have in their first year with this team and find ways to win. And that's something that Mullen, not only on his Monday press conference, but Wednesday on the SEC coaches teleconference, really credit him for. And I think that makes a bit of a challenge because, they can win in multiple ways when they come to the Swamp.
Last thing, and I don't think it's even there's no point with even screwing with predictions for this game. Like, we don't even know who's going to play for Florida or anything like that. But were you at all surprised, given a 3-week layoff, given how Missouri has played the last 2 weeks, that it was a 2-touchdown line?
I was. I mean, I will say this. I think that if Florida would have not had a break and would have been able to keep playing, and especially would have played LSU in the Swamp without Miles Brennan and a freshman quarterback and got that win, I think that I would have felt, really good about them coming into this original matchup and getting a win against Missouri. Because they've had the time off and Missouri's continued to play, I really think there's concern for Florida in this game because obviously they've shown that they can give up a lot defensively. Missouri can score, but just the physicality that the Gators could still be lacking, whereas Missouri has continued to play week in and week out. I don't want to say it's a toss-up. I definitely think Florida, I guess, should still be the favorite based on the talent, but because of the layoff, I don't view them as a 2-touchdown favorite in this game.
It's almost like in the SEC tournament when that 11 through 14 team, played a game and won, and all of a sudden they beat the team that was sitting there for 3 days. I mean, it happens every year. So I don't know if you're Florida, you're thinking, hey, this is good. We're rested. We're getting people back. If you're Missouri, you're trying to say, hey, they've been off for 3 weeks and we'll see what happens.
Exactly. No, it'll be good. I think obviously a measuring stick for both teams in the East.
Yep. All right, Zach, appreciate it, man. Enjoy the game, and we'll point everybody to your guys' coverage over at the Florida site.
Yep, absolutely. Appreciate it. And a great job on you guys on breaking the news on the games being shifted. I know everyone was on pins and needles waiting on that.
I tell you what, man, we're happy to finally have a week where we're not writing any stories about, hey, yeah, this game not happening. So
yeah, no, for sure, man. So we're glad that we finally got back to football.
All right, that was my conversation earlier this week with Zach Abolverdi, who covers the Gators for GatorsTerritory.com and broke the news earlier this morning that Florida was going to be without 3/4 of its starting secondary. So Rob jumping on saying that Dave Matter said Jatorian Hansford made the trip. I thought he was done for the year. And Rob, yes, we did mention that earlier on the stream. You got to jump on here sooner, man. Put it on the message board, tweeted it out as well. But yeah, no offense to Dave. Obviously, he reported the same thing. Spokesman told us Larry Borum and Daniel Parker Jr. not on the trip. Jatorian Hansford and Darius Robinson are on the trip. Darius Robinson was the guy toward the end of the scrum after Larry Borum leveled a Kentucky player last week who was who kind of got knocked to the ground by a coach. Coach is trying to get everybody off the field and all that to make sure Missouri did not get a taunting penalty. So again, Borum and Parker not there. We expect Javon Foster to play in Borum's place. Nico Hay and Logan Christofferson to kind of split some of the snaps. Nico Hay already was getting about 50% of the snaps at tight end. Would anticipate he'll get a little more than that. Logan Christofferson is probably going to get a few more this week for Mizzou at tight end. Messiah Swenson, it's possible. I kind of doubt it, to be quite honest with you, but you never know. A couple minutes here, Mitchell Forty is going to call in. We'll kind of chat with him about this game leading up to kickoff. We're going to be here with you on the Burger Smokehouse at-home tailgate for another 20 to 30 minutes. We'll take a little bit of a break, then get set for the actual game. And Mitch and I will be here with you guys all along. We'll just kind of give our thoughts, talk about things. We'll take your comments, questions, everything. Just kind of an interactive game day experience that's on the call, brought to you by the Call Gentry Law Group. After the game, we'll take a break. I will jump on Eli Drinkwitz's Zoom call. We'll talk to the coach. We'll come back for the post-game show. We'll play Drinkwitz's press conference. We'll take your guys' calls until however long you guys want to call and talk about the game. And remember, hey, we get back an hour tonight. So if we talk till 1 a.m., it's really only midnight. Talk till 2 a.m., it's really only 1 a.m. But once again, Burger Smokehouse, the official smokehouse, not only of this show, but also of Mizzou Athletics. Family owned and managed. They operate out of California, Missouri. You can order all their products at smokehouse.com. You can find them at all kinds of Missouri retailers, including those with the Mizzou Tigers: Deerbergs, Schnucks, Price Chopper, Woods, C&R, Hy-Vee, Gerbs, Walmart, Hen House, many more. Why would you eat Burger Smokehouse products? Well, guys, it's good, man. I mean, it's first of all, but also, second of all, a lot of their stuff you can get already pre-cooked. You can buy the pulled pork, the brisket, the ribs at the store. It's already cooked. All you got to do is pop it in the microwave for 4 minutes. It's a natural smoke process. They only smoke it over real wood chips. So it's like getting fresh smoked meat, but you don't have to actually do it. You get it, pop it in the microwave for 4 minutes, let it sit there for 2. It tastes really good. I've had it every Saturday this year. Can't recommend it highly enough. The bacon, you got to cook that yourself, but you can put it on anything. Add it to a hamburger, have a BLT, just have it for breakfast by itself. It's good stuff. Burger Smokehouse. So highly recommend that, and thank them for being a sponsor on this show all season long. This is a halfway point. 5 weeks in, we've got 5 more to go. And after today, Missouri's either going to be 3-2 in second place in the SEC East, and hey, you never know, facing Georgia in a couple weeks, or they're going to be 2-3 and kind of in there trying to separate themselves, from the chaff of Kentucky, Tennessee, South Carolina in the SEC East. Vanderbilt not really a part of that, losing at last check 54-14 to Ole Miss. That's got about 13 minutes left. Auburn just woodshedding LSU 48-11 with 4 minutes left in that game. So what I want out of you guys, and again, we're going to get Mitch in here in just a minute and kind of get his thoughts and talk about the game a little bit. But what I want from you guys, hey man, give me your predictions. I've predicted Missouri 31-30. That was before all the personnel changes we didn't know about today. I believe Mitchell picked Florida 38-31. So when he calls in, we'll ask him why he hates Missouri and all that. But give us your guys' predictions. What do you think? We'll put those up on the screen. We'll talk about them a little bit. Going to spend, again, another 20-25 minutes talking about this one leading up to kickoff. Does the game plan change based on what happened today? We maybe a little bit, do we see Connor Bazelak take a few more deep shots? And this is a game where he's going to have to do some things to keep pace, certainly with Kyle Trask and with the Florida offense. I mean, there's really no question about that. Because, again, Missouri is not winning this game 20-10. This is not Kentucky they're facing. I think this is going to be closer to the LSU game than it is to the Kentucky game. Now, hopefully for everybody's sanity, not 44-41 with the goal line stand in the last 4 plays. But I think it's closer to 45-41 than it is to 20-10. I think you got to hit 30 to win this game. So we're starting to get you guys giving us some thoughts. Sir Mufflebun says it's 28-24 Mizzou. True Divinity going 45-34 Florida. Don't know if we have the offensive firepower to keep up. And I think that's fair. I mean, look, this is a test for Missouri. This is Missouri's stiffest test this year, I think. LSU was not playing any defense at all when Missouri played them. I think this Florida offense is probably better than that LSU offense. Then you got Kentucky, which played absolutely no offense at all. So, played decent defense. But really, Kentucky, the game plan's out, man. Run the ball 100 times. Don't turn it over. You're probably going to beat them because I don't think Kentucky has an SEC quarterback. All right. Mitch needs to listen to Boat Dan, 35-27 Mizzou. Boat Dan did again pick Missouri to win. Now, in all fairness, Boat Dan always picks Missouri to win, but he doesn't always pick the game. He's got a pretty good track record. I do know there was one time, I think during basketball season, they picked Missouri and Missouri didn't win. But he does have a pretty good record. You have to think Drink tries to confuse the Florida secondary like he did against LSU. Yeah, you're going to see some motion. You're going to see some counters. You're going to see some misdirection. You're probably going to see some trick plays, certainly. All right, now we got Mitch on here. So let me see if I know how to do this. Mitch, I've got to let Mitch in. So we're going to do that. Hey, there's Mitch.
Hey.
What's up, man? How are you?
Not too much. Good. I just spilled water all over everything, but it seems like it's all still working, so that's good.
You know how we know it's football season? If you are spilling something, you are covering a football game. So
that's absolutely right.
Good deal. All right, man. Well, glad it didn't get on the computer because honestly, like I didn't want to just have to talk myself for the next 4 hours. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad to have you in here. So, all right. So it's been like every day is like it's kind of a newsy day, right? Florida has a lot of guys not playing. Missouri has a couple guys not playing. Then I guess has the most incredible team doctor ever because Darius Robinson was going to be out till after the bye and Jatorian Hansford was out forever, and now they're both on the trip. So who knows?
Yeah, the Jatorian Hansford news really came out of nowhere. He's had his surgery back pretty early in the summer, if I'm not mistaken. And they were saying he might have a chance to play, but then Drinkwitz told us his injury was season ending. So
yeah,
but apparently not.
Yeah, and what I mean, at one point I asked Drinkwitz, I think before like the second game of the year, any update on Jatorian Hansford, and he says, well, yeah, I said he was out for the year. I'm like, I don't really remember being told that, but okay, good. He's out for the year, and now he's not. And look, I don't actually – this is one year where I at least appreciate that Eli Drinkwitz is now being open with us. He's like, yeah, I watched Dan Mullen's press conference, and he didn't give away any information, so I'm just not going to tell you guys. I mean, at least I respect the honesty.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was a bit of a bummer to ask that question and
right.
and not getting it. Oh, Bob Douglas, my guy.
Bob Douglas
good
is
to,
here.
Good to see you're watching. Yeah. But I hope Bob Douglas is well, by the way. Hopefully his COVID battle is going okay. But yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with the strategy for Drinkwitz. I mean, if the other coach isn't saying anything, there's really no point. So
yeah. For sure. And hey, I do want to ask you guys for a favor. We're trying a little new thing here with the software. We don't have Mitch on Skype. We have him on a different deal. So let us know if it sounds all right, if it looks all right, if everything's working on your guys' end, because it's working for me. But if me and Mitch are just sitting here talking to each other and you guys aren't seeing, I mean, Bob Douglas obviously can see you, so that's good news. But so let us know if all the audio and all the levels, everything working okay for you guys. All right, so we're just kind of taking comments and questions, and we'll get back into Mizzou and Florida in a minute, but what's the spread of a Vanderbilt-Kansas football game this year?
Ooh, I don't know. I mean, I think Kansas still is the worst, but it would be close. I mean, it wouldn't be a good game, but it would be a close game.
Yeah. Oh boy, I'm not even sure if it would be very close, to be quite honest with you. Vanderbilt, Kansas lost by 30 again today, so I mean Vanderbilt is currently losing by 40, so maybe that was a poor example on my part. All right, so before we get to this other game, I don't know how much SEC ball you've watched. I watched the first half of Georgia-Kentucky. I think it took 17 minutes. Because neither team threw a pass, because Georgia didn't have to, and I guess at this point Kentucky just can't.
Yeah, I have not watched a ton of football today, but I mean that was about as we expected. I think both of us said on Wednesday that we didn't think Kentucky was going to find the end zone unless their defense did it, and we were right. Georgia's offense still a little bit of some issues there, but. I don't know. Not that they really needed to do much. Once they scored twice, it was over.
Yeah, for sure. And then Auburn LSU, I wanted to watch part of that. So when I sat down here, I was going to watch that, and then I turned it on. I'm like, No, I'm not going to watch any of that. So I've seen zero of
same.
that game, just the score.
Yeah, I just ended up watching the Texas-Oklahoma State instead because that game was such a blowout.
Yeah, that's what I'm on now. It's Oklahoma State 31-26 at the end of 3. So I guess which kind of absences do you think have a bigger effect on this game? The Florida ones or Missouri missing Borum and Parker?
I think we'll see. I would think missing 3 starters probably worse for Florida. But the Larry Borum's been good this season, and Florida is going to pressure opponents. I mean, they've been pretty effective blitzing. So that's definitely something to watch for. And if Xavier Delgado's out as well, and you have Dylan Spencer and Javon Foster in there, I would definitely worry about that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So we don't know if Xavier Delgado is. We know he's on the trip. We assume he's on the trip, but we don't know if he's playing. Right.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so that certainly could be an issue, and there might be more Florida guys out. I mean, I think the bonus for Florida is it's not like the defensive backs who were in there were really playing very well the first 3 weeks,
Yeah, that's true. No, they've been very susceptible against the past, so maybe this will be a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, and a couple of those guys have already started games, and I kind of started the show saying I do remember a few years ago when Todd Gurley wasn't making the trip, and we thought that was a big deal, and then we found out who Nick Chubb was. So, and just 3 weeks ago, Missouri had guys out. I mean, who knows? Week to week, a lot of things can change in this. All right. Is there okay? So Hump 707 wants to know when the Power Mizzou smack off is. Is that a new thing? Am I unaware of this? Are we gonna slap each other, or what's the story?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm unfamiliar with the smack off. Hump, we need more details.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you clearly have a longer reach, so I feel like I would probably you might just be able to do the thing where you hold your arm on my head and kind of hold
give you a stiff arm.
Yeah. So I don't know. Things are taking an interesting turn here. This will be the first time since week 1 we've had a night game. I feel like we might get some alcohol-induced posts kind of by halftime.
And I wasn't on the broadcast for that one, so I'm curious to see what our viewers come up with during the game.
There were a lot of people not on the broadcast for that one by halftime because frankly it wasn't. Yeah. I'm not sure I paid any attention. Second half of that one. So and we'll be able to talk about this tonight some, but Alabama, Mississippi State, I really don't care. Arkansas, A&M, could be interesting, but I think also could be Arkansas getting a kind of welcome back to earth situation.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, it's hard to bet against Arkansas. I think they're 4-0 against the spread, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Their turnover streak is not sustainable. So we'll see. I don't know. The way Texas A&M they've played decently lately, so I wouldn't be surprised if they win that one relatively easily.
True Divinity says count him in for an alcohol-induced post. So we're there. I like the alcohol-induced phone calls on the post-game show, to be quite honest. We got about 10 more minutes here, and we're going to take a little break before we get back on for the game watch along, and we'll be here with you throughout. Mitch will probably jump off after 3 quarters and get some things done on the site, but just kind of key matchup, keys to the game from Missouri's perspective, whichever direction you want to go on that. What do you think?
Yeah, there's a few. Obviously you got to contain Kyle Pitts. You're not going to totally shut him down, but you can't let him just, score at will basically, or be a first down machine every time they throw to him. On the other side of the ball, Florida's going to score. So Missouri's offense needs to be able to move the ball. And I think they will. I think the keys will be third down and red zone. They've not been amazing at scoring touchdowns in the red zone this season. Yeah. But Florida's defense has been bad on third downs and not very good in the red zone either. So there'll be some opportunities there. And then I think, like we mentioned earlier, the offensive line holding up against the blitz, that'll be a big factor as well. So we'll keep an eye on that, especially with at least one starter out, maybe 2.
Yeah, I don't know if good old Dan is related to Boat Dan, but he picks Missouri 35-27. I don't know if you guys are the same person or you just know each other or you just share what obviously is not a very common name. So,
Well, if you are Boat Dan, then tell me more things about my future or like the lottery numbers or something, because Dan it is a seer. We all know that.
Yeah, he is, and by far the most popular person on our website, without question.
Oh, yes.
So we're talking about matchups, and I actually think I'm kind of with you. You alluded to it a little bit. To me, Florida's going to score. You're going to have to put up 31 to win this game minimum, I think. So I actually think the key player here is Connor Bazelak and A, moving this offense, but B, like hanging on to the ball. I think the game plan's got to be a little closer to what it was against LSU than what it was against Kentucky. I think you're going to have to get some big plays. You're going to have some trickery. You're going to have to find a way to put up 35, 38 points because you're just not going down and beating this team 20-17. They're too good offensively. They've got too many guys that can move the ball. So I think it's like your head says going into that game, well, the key is the defense and holding them down. No, actually, I think the key is the offense and scoring with them. And
yeah, I would agree.
So it's on Eli Drinkwitz.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, Florida's going to score points. That offense is too good, assuming it's pretty healthy, not to. So yeah, I agree. I think this game's going to need to be scored at least in the 30s to win. Yeah,
and I mean, I guess the one equalizer always is turnovers, and I'll be honest, I haven't looked at Florida's issues with that. Missouri fixed a lot of them last week, but simply by being very conservative. Bazelak has the one interception. Their problems have mostly been fumbles and dropping punts, which nobody just flat out said this, but seemed to have been solved last week by just telling Cade Musser, go out there and you are not allowed to return the ball. If you return the ball, we're going to take you out.
Yeah, I think Eric Link did say something along the lines of, we had to crawl before we could walk. And so the instruction to Cade Musser was just catch the ball. Now that he's shown he can do that, maybe they'll allow him to run if he has some room. I mean, he had some room on some of those punts against Kentucky. So we'll see. I mean, but really just catching it is much more important at this game for sure.
Yeah, and I don't have a huge problem unless you have like a Percy Harvin or a Jeremy Macklin to use two guys who have played for teams in this game. Unless you have a guy like that back there, you're probably not getting more than 6-8 yards on a punt return anyway. I'm fine with just making sure you catch it. Now, look, if you've got a dynamic guy back there like one of those guys, obviously, yes, you don't want to handcuff him, but I'm not sure Missouri has that guy on the roster.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. I mean, no one on the current roster has had a successful punt return, to my knowledge, at least for Mizzou. So, yeah.
Sir Mufflebuns reports that Jatorian Hansford is dressed in warm-ups. I mean, I would think, look, if he's on the trip, you don't take him if there's no way he can play, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, no, you have a limit on the number of guys you can travel. I mean, unless someone's just like the greatest leader ever, maybe you'd bring them along. But I mean, no offense to Jatorian Hansford, but I haven't heard that about him. I don't know that he's like the biggest rah-rah guy.
The only situation I remember that happening was when Pig Brown got hurt in 2007. Gary Pinkel kept using a travel roster spot on him because he just meant so much to that team, and he was such a good leader that they wanted him there. But, yeah, Jatorian Hansford, like, no disrespect, but it's not that. So I assume Xavier Delgado, I assume Darius Robinson are at least available. Now, it may not be every snap. Maybe a little bit limited, but yeah, I don't think they're in Gainesville unless they expect something out of them tonight. So we haven't talked yet. I know most people wrote about it earlier this week, but Larry Roundtree, 54 yards to become the all-time leading running back in Missouri history. So I guess I don't know. Do we think he gets that tonight, and do we think he needs to get that if Missouri's going to win this game?
Yeah, I think he probably gets there. I mean, he's been over that number in every game so far this season. He's been over 100 in each of the last two. I would be pretty surprised if he doesn't get enough carries to get that. I don't know that, Missouri has to have 55 yards from him to win, but I think it would just be a bad sign if he doesn't get there because that means they probably fell way behind and were throwing every play.
Yeah. I mean, they've definitely shown a dedication to giving Roundtree the ball. But I find it interesting. Drinkwitz went from saying, I got to give him the ball more to almost immediately to, I can't give him the ball this much, and I need to give Tyler Beatty the ball more. Because, I mean, 37 carries is not going to be a regular occurrence for Larry Roundtree.
No, I mean, nothing about that game I think will be a regular occurrence.
Right.
I don't think I'll ever see another team run 60 more snaps or whatever it was than Missouri did over Kentucky.
All right, so Adam reports that Dave Matter tweeted Dylan Spencer warming up with the starters over Xavier Delgado. Not a shock, but again, I want to give credit to Dave because he is there. We are not there this year because really after about the next 10 minutes, I don't think there's any huge advantage to being there. But so I said earlier, Mitch, the best thing I could say about Dylan Spencer was he played last week and I just didn't notice him, that's a good thing.
Yeah, for an offensive lineman, that's pretty much the goal.
Right.
Drinkwitz talked about him, I think it was on Tiger Talk this past week, and said, he's got some few things to clean up. He's got some things to learn, but I'm sure, knowing he was probably going to start coming into this game that'll help a little bit. And yeah, I mean, I feel like it was promising. But I still think that line is something to watch tonight, with two starters out and playing against a team that likes to blitz.
Jackson wants to know, and Mitch, in full disclosure, earlier in this chat, I was accused of dressing as a cucumber, so he wants to know if you are a scarecrow for Halloween.
I mean, I can be, I guess. I don't know. I feel like a scarecrow is just like dressed up as a person. So,
right. I mean, yeah. You need
it's just
hat.
My full shirt. It's fall. It's flannel season.
You need a hat if you're going to be a scarecrow, to be honest.
That's true. Yeah.
Auburn LSU has gone final. Ole Miss, I mean, Vanderbilt closing the gap. It's only 54-21. So 5 more touchdowns in the final. 4:28, and Vanderbilt's got a chance. Mississippi State, Alabama, just underway. And so, yeah, I don't know. Mitch, I can't remember. I think you picked Florida by about a touchdown. Just as we kind of finish up here, kind of, anybody here who didn't read our preview, I mean, shame on you. You should have.
Exactly, yes.
Obviously, it's been there for a day. If you haven't by now, either you read too slow or you just didn't. And honestly, that's even worse. But give them your pick. Explain why.
Yeah, so I mean, I think Missouri could win this game. And we also made those picks not knowing exactly who was out. Now that I do know, it seems like it's not going to be any, really meaningful offensive players for Florida. Like you said, their defensive backs weren't very good anyway. I think Florida, I just don't know that Missouri is able to move the ball and score with Florida. Like, I think, I think Missouri is capable of getting into the low 30s maybe. But if Florida scores as often as they have been, and Missouri's pass defense has not been great this season, so I'm thinking that Florida has a chance to score. I picked them, I think 38-31, and just make basically one more play than Missouri. I think it's going to be close, but I think I'd take that Florida offense to score late in the game over this Missouri one right now.
Yeah, and I picked Missouri 31-30 for the reason that, look, I don't know, I picked Missouri to lose close the last couple weeks, and I was wrong, and so I don't need to be the bad guy 3 weeks in a row. To be honest, it was pandering to some extent. But also, I think there is something to be said for Missouri being in a little bit of a rhythm and having played fairly consistently in Florida, maybe taking a quarter to kind of get its sea legs back and things like that. So I could see a game where Missouri gets out early and then Florida comes back and maybe Missouri just recovers just enough. I believe I picked Harrison Mevis, who is like the thicker kicker. I think we heard that's what his teammates call him. So he is this week's hero. I obviously like you guys and like Missouri more than Mitch does. So I'm the popular one. So you can give him trouble. Last thing before we go, Dan asks how many fans are going to be there. Have we heard? We know it's not 90,000 because Dan Mullen will give them all COVID. But do we know what the situation is?
I actually don't. I haven't seen anyone tweet about it yet. So I assume it would be similar to the earlier home games. I think they were at like 20%. Yeah. I could be wrong on that though.
That seems to be kind of where everybody is. So once again, want to thank all you guys for being here for an hour and a half with us leading up to kickoff. Before you log off, make sure you're subscribed to our channel. Make sure you like the show. Spread the word a little bit. We do this every Saturday. Believe it or not, I mean, we're already halfway done. 5 shows down, five 5 to go, unless Missouri makes the SEC title game. Then hey, 6. But I think we're a little ways away from that right now. Not really going to start going down that road quite yet. Although if they win tonight, we're going to start getting calls about that certainly on the postgame show. But like the show, subscribe to the channel, all that. Thanks to Burger Smokehouse for being our sponsor. And Mitch and I are going to take a quick break, probably grab something to eat. We will be back in about 15 minutes for the game watch along. Hope all you guys will join us for that, and we'll see you in a few.